Nebraska goes to Ohio State, coming off Nebraska getting blown out in Bloomington. This is Ohio State's first game since losing to Oregon. Ohio State's a 25.5-point favorite, Ari. And if the Indiana and Nebraska game had never happened, I'd be like, that's way too many points. Nebraska's defense is going to be able to hold Ohio State down a little bit. I don't know that they're going to get to, because this is a 48.5-point total. But now that I've seen Indiana exploit Nebraska's weaknesses, really exploit Dylan Raiola's weaknesses. You mentioned Cody Belair, our national scout, giving you a tutorial on Dylan Raiola's weaknesses that now you can't unsee them. I don't think Jim Knowles can unsee them either. I think he's going to have a plan. I'm a little worried about the Huskers here,
but
being stuck on 5 for a while.
Conversely, Andy, the one thing of the many things that you can nitpick about Ohio State is that despite the fact that they have an all-star group of defensive linemen, they have a hard time getting home to the quarterback. And I don't know what it is, and I don't know if it's a schematic issue with Larry Johnson and Jim Knowles not being on the same page, or, if they just don't have the Nick Bosa that I was spoiled enough to be able to cover, like watching that.
Well, they definitely don't have that. JT Tuimoloau is good, Jack Sawyer's good, but they don't have that guy.
They haven't had a menacing edge rusher since the Bosa brothers were there, like that, or maybe Chase Young too.
Chase,
like that, yeah. And those were so I guess the litmus test for Ohio State's defensive line is you have to have a 5-star freak on your team that is the best player in the country and is a top 10 pick in the NFL draft to sack the quarterback. Like, they have not been sacking the quarterback. So part of me feels like if Ohio State can be in Dylan Raiola's face the entire game, that Ohio State would win 45-0 or 45-10. But I do think it's fair to question whether or not you think that Ohio State's pass rush is good enough to get to where it needs to be this year.
Do you think Indiana's pass rush is better than Ohio State's pass rush?
Probably not. No.
Okay. Well, because Indiana did it.
I mean, I was leaning towards taking Nebraska here because that's a lot of points, and I think that it's possible that, that Dylan Raiola has a semi-functional game, but I just can't get out of my head the mistakes that he was making at this stage in his career when people were in his face. I think that Ohio State should be able to get into his face. I don't know if they're going to finish the plays with as many sacks as you would anticipate this Ohio State defensive line is capable of, but I just don't know what the route here is for Nebraska keeping it close, especially because Ohio State's a week off. They're rested. They're probably pretty angry, embarrassed, at home. There's not a lot.
Like you said about Vandy, Texas. Vandy's probably like, man, we wish they'd beaten Georgia. I'm sure Nebraska's like, man, we wish Ohio State had beaten Oregon.
Yeah. I guess I'll pick Ohio State, but I don't know that I love it.
I am picking Ohio State, and I feel very comfortable with it. Maybe Nebraska proves me wrong. I hope for their sake they do, but
and I have covered a lot
last week
Ohio State, Nebraska games in the past, and I know that this is a different program with a different coach. But when the Ohio State Nebraska games get ugly in the past, it's been 63-0 ugly. You know what I mean? And I don't know if we're headed towards that, but that's definitely, on the radar too. So, hopefully Dylan Raiola can figure some things out and they can get a few stops, but Ohio State is back to having to prove to people that they aren't a joke. And this is an important victory situation for them.